Thank you very much, Howard. Welcome, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
Very good to be here. Been on the stage many times and also with the ATC, so happy to be here today.
Well, welcome again. I think we have a very distinguished guests in the audience, and they're very much looking forward to hearing from you. Mr. Chairman and I talked yesterday briefly, but we haven't talked about our ties, but we're basically wearing the same color ties, and very close. So I think from that perspective, I think we are aligned.
We're totally aligned.
So Mr. Chairman has been one of the longest serving chairmen in the U.S. Exim lately for the past 7 years, and he has made a lot of contribution in the investments in Turkey. So, and U.S. Exim obviously has been in Turkey for many decades. So I think it would be very good to hear from you, Mr. Chairman, U.S. Exim's venture in Turkey for many years. And tell us about some background.
Well, the Export-Import Bank of the United States, we are the trade bank of the United States. There are about 85 export credit agencies around the world. We were started by FDR in 1934, and actually this month, 82 years ago, we made our first transaction in Turkey. So in less than a year, within the first 12 months of our founding, we made a transaction of financing of equipment for a harbor in Turkey. And we have now been in Turkey every year since. Turkey currently ranks in the top 10 in our portfolio, and it's been a broad portfolio. And to just educate a few folks of what we actually do, we provide finance and insurance for U.S. exports going to Turkey. They can be services, they can be products. They do not have to be, but we're not involved in foreign direct investment. We're really involved in providing the tools frequently for commerce. So clients that we've worked with in Turkey include, obviously, Pegasus, Sun Airlines, Turkish Airlines. We have financed locomotives into Turkey, power plants, renewable energy. We've been involved as one of the financing partners on the Star Refinery. So it's a very broad portfolio. And one of the things Barish and I talked about, which I think sometimes is forgotten, about 90% of the customers we work with in the U.S. are actually small businesses. And Turkey is made up of many SMEs. So an important part of our work, often what gets written about are large transactions such as aircraft or a power plant, but many of our transactions are actually for SMEs, both in the United States and Turkey.
This is very interesting that you say that, Mr. Chairman. As you rightfully pointed out, Turkey is not only composed of large corporates, obviously, but it's an SME country. Hundreds of thousands of SMEs are in Turkey, and they are operating very competitively, and they are going into such big projects, actually. So it's very interesting that U.S. Exim is taking part in those co-financings or financings. Could you tell us a little bit about your co-financing activities in Turkey? I think you are providing finance for Turkish companies to do business in third countries, other countries? So
I'm here with Bob Moran. I think he's sitting back there someplace. Where's Bob Moran sitting? I know he's in the room. Bob, one of the things, I see him on the corner. Unfortunately, I can see his head there's a reflection. We signed an agreement with the Turkish Exim Bank about 5-6 months ago. We currently have what are called co-financing agreements with about 14 other countries. Canada, the UK, France, and also recently the Czech Republic. So what this means is that when there is a project that would involve U.S. exports and Turkish exports, and one of the things I think makes this an exciting co-financing agreement is the large number of Turkish construction companies that are doing work throughout the Central Asian states, throughout Africa. These are where we could provide financing for the U.S. portion. The Turkish Exim Bank could provide financing of the Turkish portion, and together, I think we can win a lot more bids. We all know that the largest construction companies, the greatest number, are in China. Turkey is second only to China, and I think there are many projects that we could work on together, and with a co-financing where the U.S. and the Turkish Exim Bank together could finance power projects, mass transit, airports, and other things that would tap into the expertise of both the United States and Turkey.
This is actually very important for the region, because our region, where Turkey lies, is going to go through a lot of construction, large construction projects, and Turkish construction companies are obviously very active in those regions, and working together with U.S. financing institutions and other U.S. companies, it's very actually challenging. What are some of the maybe challenges you've seen working for Turkish companies? And could you also tell us a little bit about some of the general terms that, how many years of financing because you're providing long-term financing for these projects?
What we do at the Export-Import Bank, we can provide longer-term financing. I would say what we do in many markets is provide capacity. All of our loans are backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government, so that the interest rates tends to be lower because of that guarantee. But probably the largest advantage is the fact that we can provide very long-tenured loans. When it comes to renewable energy, we can go as long as 18 years. For the aircraft that we have done with Turkish Airlines and Pegasus and Sun, it's as long as 12 years. Locomotives are similarly about 14 years. So it tends to be very long-term financing. And I'm sure many of you in the room know commercial banks today are frequently reluctant to go much beyond 5 years, maybe 8 years. And if you're doing a large project, you need longer-term money in order to really make that project economically viable.
Sure. I mean, 18 years is quite a time frame. There's hardly any bank that goes beyond 8 to 10 years. So 18 years of financing is very, very important in some of the large projects. So where do you see American business, in Turkey? I mean, what are some of the opportunities that you can see from a financing point of view? How do American companies participate in some of these large projects in Turkey and with the Turkish companies in the region?
Well, I think that what would be great opportunities is finding projects, particularly in third countries. When I talk with the Turkish business community, I met with the ambassador from Turkey last month. General Jones is a good friend. We've talked about projects in third countries, as I mentioned, in Central Asia, projects in Sub-Saharan Africa where we could participate there. The other thing that we have expertise in, I'll give you an example. A number of years ago, Ford Motor Company was opening a new plant in Gujarat, and we were going to finance all of the equipment that came from the U.S. to operate that plant. In the end, actually, Ford's economic prospects got better and better. They did not need to take the loan. But the point was, we can make a loan and loan guarantees to bring in the tools of manufacturing so that Turkey can better compete globally in the manufacture of goods around the world.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Is there any other point that you would like to have the audience maybe know about the Turkey and U.S. relations, and how can we better our relations on the trade and investment side?
I would probably just add one more thought. Just last month, I became the longest serving chairman at the bank, and I think that there would be so much to be gained by the United States and Turkey if we could find ways to enhance the commercial engagement. I look at countries, as I've traveled probably to 30-plus countries in my time at the bank, and when we have more commercial ties, we tend to have a stronger bond. And every friendship will have its strains from time to time, But I think that the commercial relationships, when we build things together, when we make things together, we actually form much more durable bonds. So I'm hoping that by inviting me here today, having this conversation, the 2 days of meetings here, that we can enhance that and find better ways to work together to make this a much stronger relationship.
Okay, maybe one last question. How do you compare financing projects in Turkey versus maybe other emerging markets? Are there any differences, or is it generally just a standard way of approaching these projects?
Well, I would say that there are many countries I work in that are far more bureaucratic. So Turkey is more business oriented, which I think makes it a plus for doing business. In terms of clean government, there are more advantages also in Turkey. So I think those are some of the advantages from a number of other markets I've worked with. Areas such as the fact that Turkish airline is such a global airline with such a global reach makes it a very important hub for business, and that becomes a real advantage. I actually, on my way to Pakistan this year, took Turkish Airlines. So I think there are a number of those advantages that are in Turkey. And obviously a stable government is important because a friend of mine said that capital is a coward. And capital needs to see a degree of stability, a degree of predictability. So I would say, as was mentioned earlier, with the coup being pushed back and beaten back and creating more stability, that obviously is going to be important in terms of raising the lives of and the livelihood of people living in Turkey and the surrounding area.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a pleasure to have you here. So really appreciate on behalf of TAIC also and ATC. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.